Welcome to this episode of Don't Chew With Your Mouth Open. Thank you for joining us. As usual, please like and subscribe, share your comments, and let us know what you'd like us to talk about and what you think about and where we are within your mind. Our podcast is targeted for anybody who lives in the global south, in the emerging and frontier markets, who's trying to build their income, build their wealth, build their capital, and move up a social strata. So we focus on investment, finance, entrepreneurship, and social mobility. Let's get into this week's episode. Welcome to our episode of our podcast, Don't Chew With Your Mouth Open, where we'll discuss business, economics, finance, investments, and wealth creation for the global south. Welcome to our podcast, Don't Chew With Your Mouth Open. We're coming in today with another episode of The Business Of. Today I'm speaking to a man who actually got me started in this podcasting journey. He's the one who encouraged me to start doing it. And we'll be talking about real estate, inner city real estate more specifically, and any other issue that might come up during our conversation. So I'd like to welcome my good friend, Mr. Ekow Quagraine.
Thanks, Tammy.
How are you, brother?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me.
No, it's
I
always
appreciate giving me your time. It's been a while. We've been
Yeah.
trying to do this.
Yeah.
But again, as I said, I do this because you're the one who's encouraged me. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot from you, especially from your channel, Property Ask Ekow, and other channels that you're going through. So thank you so much for your time. Guess we'll dive straight into it.
Yeah.
Who's Ekow? Where did you grow up? What did you do? How did you get to being where you are now?
Oh, so Ekow, I'm Ekow. I'm a legacy builder, property investor, and ex-investment banker, right? I was able to quit my job in under 5 years because of passive income through rental income. And I now teach others how to do the same. The most important thing where I got my light bulb is being able to buy my first property without a cent of my own money, right? And as I've been looking around, and I've just gotten on the level of impact rather than just the mere profit, right? And that's how we started this, and that's why the Property Ask Ekow came about, because you talk to people and you find out that, like, it's not that people are not smart. People do not have certain information to make the right decision or to make informed decision. And to me, that's what this is about. That's why I call myself a legacy builder. It's about impacting, it's about sharing what I know so that together we can build even better Ekows.
I understood.
Yeah.
So actually, let's talk about that. So the first property, and the goal of this is to give people insight on the business behind certain things. Because everyone knows what it looks like in front, but never behind. How did you go about doing it? And the banking side of it helping you execute that?
Yeah. So I think the first property when I was at varsity, so in my previous life, I did computational applied maths. I've got an honors degree.
You did what? Wait, slow down. You did what?
Computational and applied maths.
Okay,
Yeah,
so you're not a
Village
dumb
University. No. But I mean, so when I was at varsity, my sister actually introduced me to reading, reading non-fiction books.
Yeah, right.
My first book I read was Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, the first edition. Yeah. And in that book, he spoke about properties, minerals, oil, and the property resonated well with me because as I was growing up, my mother always advised me to live around the 4 basic needs of human beings, right? Which is shelter, electricity, food, clothing.
Okay, so it's clothing, energy, shelter, and food.
Yeah, and food.
All right.
And shelter is property. Right? I mean, even the guy on the street sleeps under a bridge. And the bridge is property. It's shelter.
Okay. Jeez.
Right? The guy in winter that covers his body or in the bag that electricity. The plastic bag, that electricity. We need warmth.
Energy, okay, I get you. Yeah.
Right? So human beings cannot live without
basic needs.
yes.
Okay.
So then by reading and researching, it just made obvious sense to go for property. And also, the secret behind property, it's the only thing the banks will give you money to buy and put it in your name.
Okay, explain that.
Okay.
Let's go through that. Explain that.
Okay. Because think of it, bricks and mortar. It's sitting here on the land. It doesn't go anywhere. So there's risk, but there's no real risk.
So there's no mobility. You can't pick up a house and put it in your pocket.
And then go.
Yeah.
So that's why a bank will give you 100% loan on that property, right? Because the first thing is, by the time you default, you've already paid them some money. They can still go to the bank. They can still go to court, get a foreclosure, sell it to somebody else. So far as human existence, property will forever be a basic need.
Because I read somewhere, it says 20 billion rand of mortgages are written every year in South Africa.
Exactly. So every single bank, if you look at their portfolio, it's 50 or more are allocated to home loans. Home loans is property.
Yeah, okay. All right, so when you say getting 100% from the bank, how do you do that? Like, how does one convince the bank they have sufficient income, future income, because it's not just present income,
yes,
future income,
yes,
and how that property will generate enough income to cover the repayment of the mortgage?
Okay, so we look at microeconomics and macroeconomics, right? You look at the country as a whole and see the risk and the market risk and what is happening. Right, that's how the bank then put their benchmark, right? Then you look at you as a person in terms of job stability, in terms of, and the thing is also you need to understand is there's two different types of a property buyer or a house buyer. I'm using the word buyer carefully because there's an investor and there's a person that's buying for a home.
So when it's your residential, buying.
Yes.
But when you're intending to generate income,
yes. Yes. But at the end of the day, we are all buying, but different purposes. That's why I use the word buyer, right? So if you're buying as for a home, different risk models that you look at. If you're buying for investment, different risk models. Investment purely is the asset you're buying and your cash flow.
Okay.
Right? The bank is sitting there thinking, am I going to make profit? Are you going to be able to sustain this? Right? Staying in there, also are you going to be able to pay? And that falls purely on your job security, your salary.
Okay. So the bank takes a view on your ability to hold a job over the long term.
Yes. So now then comes back to who is your employer?
So is that why people who start companies, for example, or who are growing businesses have a harder time getting that kind of credit than someone who's working for a big institution, an R&B, a Sanlam, a ShopRite, whatever?
100%. Because for you to get fired at R&B or Sanlam, you need to go through a lot of hurdles. They won't just wake up and fire you. There's laws and regulations in this country, right? So your stability or security level is a bit more stable. Let me use than a person like
who's starting a business.
Yes, like
even if the cash flows may reflect that, the view of them is the risk is higher.
Exactly.
Yes,
because they look at you like a cowboy.
Yeah.
You know?
So it's a debate we've had with a lot of people who started their own businesses, me being one, about how the banks view us. So even if your cash flows are relatively substantial,
yes,
sometimes the bank will still decline you on the basis of next year your business might wither. Who are your clients? Who are you servicing? How long are your contracts?
Yes.
And so on and so forth. Whereas an individual who has a job doesn't seem to get those questions. It's more, how long have you had that job?
Yes.
Why? What are your qualifications?
Yes.
How long have you studied? And so on and so forth. So
yes.
doctors, for example, access credit, or chartered accountants, actuaries, access credit easier than somebody who's starting their own business or who has built their own business?
Yes, but in the long run, the guy that stays in there and build their own business will always win. That's a fact. But do you have the courage to go through? That's why you need the right team around you. But anyway, that's a topic for another day.
That's why I'm laughing. Okay, so how did you decide, to be more specific, and inner city? How did you decide inner city? How did you, because you're braver than me. You've taken me to some of your properties. Yeah. You're braver than me. I don't know if I would have been able to do that. How did you decide Joburg CBD, there's good value and I can make money as an investor?
Okay, so the inner city thing came about when I was at varsity. I used to be a taxi driver.
Wait, what?
Yeah. I used to
you
be
never told me this.
Yeah, I used to be a taxi driver. Yeah. We've been hustling. I used to be a taxi driver when I was at varsity. And I used to pick up the waiters and waitresses from Senton.
All right.
Okay. And where are they staying? Inner city. So we used to talk. And then one day I asked the guy, how much rent do you pay? He's like, dude, you don't want to know. I'm paying 2,500. And I'm like, can I see where you stay? Like, I walked in there. This place is big. Like, basically a matchbox. The guy's paying 2,500. And I'm like, people are making money. But I also saw another side, slum lords.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it. Yeah. So it was like, okay, profit with purpose, street smart with heart, impact. And that's how it started. So as I was at varsity, picking up people when I was doing my honors, I already knew what I was going to do when I get my first job.
Right. Okay, so...
Well, even though that was my first job, by, driving people around.
Fair, I understand.
Yeah.
Corporate job that gives you access to credit.
Gives you access to credit, that's it.
Jeez.
So that's how the inner city came about. And then obviously it was cemented by the values my mom taught me about investing. My mom herself invested in properties in Ghana, so it's part of the family thing, so... Maybe I got a bit of upper hand because
I remember when we went to see some of them, you brought some plantain.
Yeah.
That you made for us.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. It's interesting to see how multicultural Joburg CBD is. It's actually quite interesting. You can find everything you need for multiple sort of nationalities.
Yes.
There are other issues other people have or about that, but it's quite interesting to see how multicultural it is. And then So you go to your bank and say, okay, I want to buy this apartment building in the middle of town.
Yeah. Okay. So the inner city thing, all the properties were not funded by it's cash, but I'll tell you how I did that. Right. Getting back to the inner city and asking the question again, besides my mother and besides the waiter that gave me, that insight and the light bulb. I use what I call the 3 Ps, the 3P filters, right? Which is what you call people, paperwork, profits.
Right. Okay.
Right. That's what I use to evaluate all my deals, every single deal.
Okay.
Right. And inner city, what I saw besides just the profit was broken spaces.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So just using property investing as a tool to revive broken spaces, rebuild dignity because of the kind of people that live there, right? And obviously to make some profit also. But it's more around social impact.
Okay. So you get your first one.
Yeah.
How do you secure a tenant? Because from what I understand, some of the inner city tenants are not necessarily always documented.
Yes.
Because in fact, it's something that I wanted to discuss. I thought about it the other day. If you have, call it 1 million people who live in Joburg CBD.
Yeah.
And I'm estimating.
Yeah, it's around that number.
And 100,000 of them pay rent.
Yes.
And they pay rent of 500 rand.
Yeah.
That's 50 million rand a month.
Yeah.
That's enough money to bribe the municipality, to keep the cops away, and to sort of move things around.
Yes.
Right? So it becomes a difficult thing to enforce the rule of law
Yes.
when 50 million is flowing to people's pockets
Yes.
every month
Yes.
across the board, right? So how does one govern that? As an investor, you go into that environment, how does one secure the with whoever you're buying from, that
Yes.
you have the title deed, that it's right? How does one secure a call it a tenant, but making sure that tenant is not necessarily an illegal immigrant or has other issues? How do you work around that? How do you work around the municipality? Because
Yes.
I know some of the buildings, you may own an apartment, but the building hasn't paid.
Yes.
So now they close water for the whole building or electricity. Now your tenant is stuck. Like, how do you navigate those things?
Okay, so when I bought and I'll tell you from my story what I did, right, and what we've done. You look at, first of all, let's talk about the tenant issues, right? You buy a property, for example, you get into a unit. It's not that people don't want to pay. People don't know who to pay to.
Right.
Because it's either you have a slum landlord
Yes.
or you've got a neglected owner.
Okay.
Right? So that's so you go in with two things. That's what I did, and it worked. You go in with two things: empathy and savviness.
Okay.
You need to understand the people that you are talking to, right? Irrespective of where they come from,
Okay.
because we are all human beings.
Yeah, fair play.
So respect, that's what you go in with. You go in with respect, you go in with empathy. Then you go in with the paperwork. Know your numbers. That's why I use the 3P filter, which is people, paperwork, profit. Right? You remember, I started with people.
People. Yeah.
Then it's the paperwork. Profit will always come if those two are taken care of.
Yeah. Okay. So now you acquired this property,
Yeah.
whether via the bank, whether via salary, via cash, and then you leverage to the next one.
Yes.
Because we don't want to put your business out there,
Yes.
but you own quite a few of these things. How did you then scale it? How did you then move from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to where you're at now?
Okay, so when I was at varsity, I also used to invest in stock market, right? And with the stock market, I've got 3 different buckets, and that's the same way I invest in property. I've got the ship. The ship is going nowhere slowly. So you're talking Sassel,
Yeah,
you know,
ShopRite,
ShopRite,
Standard Bank,
HP, Billiton, those kind of people, they are going nowhere slowly. So you are not going to get massive appreciation.
Yeah.
But you are confirmed or guaranteed. There's no such a thing, but guaranteed that you're going to get your dividend.
Yeah.
Right? That's going nowhere slowly. So now you take that and you match it against inner city.
Okay.
No capital appreciation, great yield.
All right. Okay. So it's a yield play, really.
Exactly.
So you're not looking to grow the value of your property per se, but the cash flows.
With time, the value will grow.
Yeah,
with time, but we are talking 10, 15, 20 years, right? So that's bucket one, right? As an investor, you need to figure out where's the cash flow, where do you play, right? So that's one.
Sorry to interrupt. So how do you collect? How do you make sure the people who actually stay there? Because my understanding of that is that it's a very volatile market.
Yes.
So how do you manage that bucket one, to make sure the yield is right?
Systems.
How do you?
So we are in a great space where we are moving from survival to systems, right? You've got technology. These days, you can send your invoice just via WhatsApp. You can collect things. We've got prepaid meters now. You can cut people off.
Yeah.
Prepaid water, electricity, prepaid electricity meter and prepaid water meter. So if you put the right systems in place, you don't even need to go hire people like we used to do back in the days to go and collect and knock people's door and punch people, if they need be
and run away from the red ants.
You see, so we don't do those things anymore. It's like the technology integration has made life so. It's like a white collar, proper. Like you stay away on your phone, you can switch off the electricity. You can switch off your water meter. You don't need to go there. You don't need to physically be in the face of people.
Okay.
Right? So that is a bit expensive, but you have to do that. So you put systems in place. If you do not have systems in place, then you need to be hands-on. You need to have, if it depends. Managing property, it's a full-time job. So you decide what kind of investor do you want to become. You want to be passive investor or an active investor. An active investor meaning, are you going to manage the tenant yourself? A passive investor means maybe I'll partner with somebody, which is very key, and then collect some money and charge me a fee. There's property managers, good property managers around, but you need to then know the right property manager. You know, you can't, for example, take a person that's doing so well in Sentin to come to Berea.
Yeah,
will fail.
yeah. It's a different clientele.
Because Sentin is, if you don't pay me in Sentin, I'll phone the CEO of your company. That's what I will do. I'll make sure that I've shamed you because you want to make my business go down. I will expose you. But the guy, the security guy doesn't care about that. He's used to that shaming anyway. So different mindset.
Okay.
Right. So I will probably go, instead of, so people look at it differently. You go to the certain guy and you want to be nice. I'll probably go to the certain guy not being nice. I'll just go to your HR. This guy says it's not being paid salary. What's going on? He stays in my property. I will dispose you. But the guy, the security guy, you need to sit down with that guy and reason with that guy, even pay that guy to get out of your property.
It's a different ballgame.
Because more or less got nothing to lose.
In fact, you have everything to lose in reality.
So that's why I started by saying empathy and savviness. You need to know when to use those attributes. At the bigger picture.
Let's go back. You said 3 buckets. You've spoken about the ship going nowhere slowly. The second bucket?
So the second bucket is what I call the rafts. Right? The rafts is the guy, the penny stock.
Okay.
Right? So the penny stock, again, you are not going to get any dividend from that penny stock. So you are not going to get your monthly income from that penny stock, but massive appreciation.
The growth, okay. So
right?
Yes.
So then you find another area that gives you that.
So in Joburg, for example, what would you consider an area like that?
So so in Joburg, you probably look at so you look at Sentin.
Okay.
Sentin as a penny stock area because Sentin gives you massive appreciation, but you are always chasing topping up the rental or the bond.
Okay.
If you're letting out your property.
Okay.
It's unlikely that you are going to rent your place out to match the bond.
Okay.
So, for example, if you buy a 2 million apartment, right, and the area, and it's a bachelor unit, and you are only charging 15,000, 10 to 15,000, that's the cap. You are not going to charge that to 20,000, 35. So you are always behind with 5,000 that needs to come out of your own pocket. So the raft gives you the appreciation.
Okay.
So you, in the mindset, you're saying, I'm buying and I'm going to offload this thing in 5 years' time.
Right.
And it will grow compoundedly every 5 years or 7 years at 7% minimum. You know, so that's another leg of it. The beauty one is the mid cap, which is like your Capitec and the rest, right? So the mid cap, you look at the Joburg South, where you've got Winchester, you've got even a part of Rosettenville as well. Terfontaine is a big area now, where you still get your appreciation. You get young professionals that want to live in that area if you do your stuff well, and you still get your rental income. So you are matching in between your yield and you are still getting the property at a very affordable rate.
Okay.
So that's how I see. That's how I invest.
All right. So, yeah, so there's a lot more questions now. So, you spoke about getting the bank to pay 100%.
Yes.
How did you go about doing that?
So there are two ways. It depends, again, the area you are buying the property from, right? You and your risk profile. If you're a first-time buyer, the chances of you getting 100% is very high.
No, true, actually.
If you're a first-time buyer.
Yeah, true.
So then what do you do as a first-time buyer? Do you get the 100% and give it to the person you're buying from, or you get 100% and renegotiate? There's a lot of strategies where we are about to launch our property startup blueprint, and everything that I've done from scaling from within 10 years to over 100 units, everything is in that, where we'll be teaching people on how to become better than Ekow. That's it. So that's coming very soon.
Okay.
And all those, nitty-gritty negotiating. Like, for example, I bought a property in Beria for 10,000 rand, right? How do you get that? And that 10,000 rand didn't even come out of my pocket. I gave the guy 100 rand.
Wait, what? Whoa, slow down.
I gave Mr. Naidu, and I'm gonna mention his name, Mr. Naidu. I gave him 100 rand.
So he was selling it for 10,000 at the time.
No, he was selling the property for 35,000 rand.
Right.
He just wanted to get out, bad tenants. Nobody wants to, right? The same building I took you to. Yes, 35,000 rand.
Right.
I bought it for 10,000 rand, and I gave him
100,000 security.
You know how I secured the deal? I said, I work at R&B. This is my contract. I don't have the money to give you now. I'll give you 100 rand. If I don't pay you, this is my pay slip. Phone the bank and tell them that I took your money and I never paid. They will fire me. That is negotiation.
Sure. And so you paid him out over time, the 10K, you cleaned it up, brought someone
It gave me 3 months, but I paid it in 7 days. I brought somebody in. I spoke to the tenants in there. Luckily, we could speak the same language, and they understood what I was about. Gave the tenant 500 rand to get out of the place. Right? Cleaned the place up. Took a tenant, paid me 2 month deposits.
Which you then used to...
Which was 7,000 rand, 3,500. 2 month deposit, 7,000, gave it to Mr. Naidu. The next month when I got paid, it was getting to Latin. So also when you negotiate, timing is everything.
Okay.
Don't go negotiate knowing that you're going to get money at the 31st, but you are negotiating the first of the month.
Yeah.
Negotiate closer because you are building trust.
Okay.
Everything is relationship. So that I said 3 months, I paid him in 7 days. You know what happened? Everybody sold their property. That's why I'm majority owner in that building.
So now everyone comes to you because they know you can exit them from a difficult property.
Exactly.
Sure. That's quite innovative. This is why you introduced me to Nightingale.
Yeah.
Actually, we must talk about that. So it's in the early 1900s,
Yes.
America.
Yes.
And oddly enough, his principles still hold true until today. And he speaks a lot about the mind and how to focus.
Yes.
You introduced me to him, started listening to him a bit, read one of his books. And a lot of what you're saying seems to come from the mentality of what he shares.
Yes.
Is there a way you'd want to speak to about how reading about him and listening to him has helped you grow in this mentality to be able to address difficult situations in real estate?
Yeah, so the reason why I like Earl Nightingale and I follow him a lot and I've listened to every single podcast of Earl Nightingale. It's the power of the subconscious mind, right? That's what Earl Nightingale teaches you, the power of the mind. You are the captain of that subconscious mind. You know, subconscious mind is just emotion. It's like buying a property. Your subconscious mind then becomes the heart. I like this, it's so nice. But your conscious mind is the captain. Numbers, logic. But can I afford this? it's beautiful, but what if I can't pay? And what if this happens? So, but you need both, right? But the funny thing is, your cautious mind, right, it's not the one that, the cautious mind is the cause. And your subconscious mind is the effect, the results you get.
Okay.
Right? So normally the effect is more greater than the cause. Because you're going to take action and you're going to have consequences. But the consequences based on that action could be big or small, positive or negative, good or bad. But your subconscious mind doesn't know that. It goes into the FOMO.
All right. So it's rather an emotionally driven state,
100%.
a rational driven state.
Fear of missing out, fear of losing a loved one, the happiness. So what are you feeding it? That's where the conscious mind comes into play. What do you feed the subconscious mind? Do you feed it to see happiness or do you feed it to see pain? Because when you feed it, whatever you feed it, let me put it this way simply. Your subconscious mind is the fertile. Your conscious mind is the seed. And remember, it's the land. It doesn't matter what you're planting.
So good crop, bad crop, it's irrelevant.
It does.
So you can generate the right type of thoughts that put you in the position to execute, for example, like you did, opportunities that come to you.
Yes.
If you think through things properly,
Yes.
you make sure your mind is fed with the right things.
Yes.
I guess this is why Christians are often taught to read their Bible every day.
Yes. I mean, all
Give
the
your-
answers are in the Bible.
Yeah, so give your mind the right, as you said, seed.
Yes.
And the right things grow, and from there you make better decisions.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. I'm quite intrigued with the concept of you evolving from just being an investor to now teaching others to invest.
Yes.
That's I mean, Property South Africa always has somebody trying to sell something, a course, but in this instance, I think the difference is you actually done it yourself.
Yes.
You are doing it.
Yes.
It's how you pay your bills, you feed your family, it's how you do what you do. So from your experience, what would you say is different from what is known out there?
Yes.
Or let me rephrase that. So I believe everything has a language.
Yes.
So business has a language, investment has a language.
Yes.
There is learning a language. So if my child goes to school and learns Zulu,
Yes.
they'll learn it and they can even pass it and get a distinction.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean they can actually converse colloquially with everyone or go to KZN and fully be able to talk to everyone and understand and comprehend and engage meaningfully.
Yes.
Because the language that's spoken and engaged in is different from the language that's taught.
Yes.
And I think that's the same with business.
Yes.
That there's what we learn in school or what we're taught, that's the language of real estate.
Yes.
But what actually happens has a different language.
Yes.
Like you're saying now, what happens when your tenant refuses to leave?
Yes.
Right? That's not something that's in the textbook.
Yeah.
There may be a pathway, go to the law, get an eviction notice and so. But if it's someone who has nothing to lose, an eviction notice means nothing.
Yes.
Right. So in that framing, what's the difference between the language that we're taught about property? Because personally, I find property hard, personally.
Yes.
Because I always think about, there's rates, there's the municipality,
Yeah.
there's if I buy in a complex, there'll be those rates.
Yes.
Then getting that person.
Yes.
And COVID made it even more clearer to me when people now can't pay you,
Yes.
but you can't get them out. And like, so I always find that I prefer to look at a business
Yes.
or buy a stock.
Yes.
I think I have more influence on that personally. So I've always thought about this. So this conversation actually is helping me. What's the difference between the language that is taught?
Yes.
So the guys who can give you a course on property management in theory.
Yes.
And the language that you now speak,
Yes.
which is real and lived.
Yes.
Like what's the gap there? What are the things you see that are different?
Okay, so I think mine, if we're talking I can only speak for myself.
Yeah.
So we comparing me to the people out
to
there,
the market.
right? To the market.
Yeah.
The difference I come with is experience. I do this. I've done it. I'm paying school fees, which is not a normal school fees,
Yeah.
through rental income, passive income. I've built a business out of it, right? And now I'm teaching you my blueprint, what I did to get here. In 10 years, you can do it in 18 months with what I'll teach you if you apply it. Everybody says knowledge is power, but knowledge is only power when it's applied.
Yeah, agreed. I would actually go as far as arguing that a lot of our flaws as human beings, especially those of us in the developing world, is, there's access, which is difficult a lot of times, access to opportunity, capital, and so on. But the second one is execution.
Yes.
I find even laws, we write great laws, but can the law enforcement actually enforce those laws?
Yes.
Or are we creating rent-seeking behavior?
Yes.
Where someone can now can use that law to extract capital from you,
Yes.
or extract favor.
Yes.
So I'm always thinking about how we great in theory,
Yes.
but poor in practice.
Because practice is hard. Practice is boring, and boring is the most difficult thing to do. You wake up every day, every Wednesday, 9 o'clock you need to shoot. It's the most boring thing, but it's the most powerful thing, because that's where you're going to make your money. It's as simple as that. And that's what 5% of the population, we've got billions of people, but only 5% can able to execute this properly. The 95%, they can't.
Yeah,
Right? So the practice is what differentiates everyone. Everybody knows something. Everyone knows something. The question is your belief tied to your cause? And your cause is action. And your effect will be the result once you practice or once you've taken the action, your belief. That is the most difficult thing to merge.
Yes, so I've had this in the office with guys. Last year I was telling guys we signed over 280 NDAs trying to do transactions. And going through the deal structure, going through the financial models, going through data rooms, and you repeatedly do it. And we didn't close a deal last year. And you repeatedly do it over and over and over. You can find that the detail and the everyday grind can make you believe you're not progressing.
Yes.
Can make you believe, even as a business owner, can make you believe your business is not growing. But the habits you develop over that time, you're able to quickly discern, is this a good deal or not a good deal?
Yes.
Because you continuously done, as you said, the boring. And then you can quickly assess, this is a great opportunity.
Yes.
And quickly attempt to execute on it and still not be able to execute.
Yes.
But that discipline I've found. And so I often have to remind guys in the office about that the work we're in advising clients and investing in businesses, it's actually not, TV has lied to us.
Yes.
It's made M&A or being a lawyer or being an investor fashionable. So you watch Suits or you watch, what's this show that it X Capital?
Yes.
Yeah, you watch those shows in billions. You watch these shows and it all looks nice, but the hard grind behind making a decision, and even after doing all the work, that decision can still be wrong.
Yes.
And having that discipline over time, I think, is what separates a lot of us.
Yes. So you're right. So let's take it this way. We all take actions, right? I can take an action and build a pizza shop. You will take the same action and build Pick and Pay. Well, Pick and Pay is going down now, so let's talk about Woolworth. Right? Right? Yeah.
They're turning around. But fair play. Yeah.
Right? So you build Woolworth, right? Same time, we've been given equal time. The difference is systems and team. That's what differentiates the two.
I would add access. access.
But your team is the relationship.
Right.
Your team is the access.
Okay.
So if you don't have a strong team, I'll give you a simple example. PayPal.
Yeah.
Look at PayPal
Yeah.
and look at everybody that was on PayPal. Elon Musk is the richest guy on earth. And everybody that ever was part of that PayPal team,
Yeah, I think
it's
they're all
not worth
billionaires.
less than $100 billion. Not less than $100 billion. Team relationship. Systems.
I want to think about that. So I look at a company like Discovery. If Adrian Gore didn't have the founders of R&B on his side, I don't know if we talk about Discovery the way we do now.
So it's the team relationships. It boils down. So you will know something, right? I say, and I might be wrong, but this is my belief. For you to be successful, we can talk about success the whole day, but for you to be successful, to me, you need three things in life. The first one is grace. I don't care what you believe in.
Yeah.
Whether it's Allah, it's God, it's Hindu, whatever, it's grace. You need grace from your maker. The second thing,
Agreed, actually.
relationship, which is teamwork. The team, the people, information, wisdom. You can have information, but if you don't have access, you're speaking about Adrian Cole. If you don't have access to the right team, the right relationship, if your network, like Robert Kiyosaki says, tell me your network and I will define your net worth. I'll tell you your net worth, right? So if your network are not thinking on the level of billions and they are thinking on the level of cents, you can only breed cents. And that's why it's okay. They say, oh, this guy became this and now he doesn't even go home. Or this guy became this and he doesn't talk to his college mates anymore.
Yeah.
Because we are on a different level.
Yeah. So we actually have an episode where we talk about that, where we say switching allegiance, where as you move through the social mobility, you move through social structures, there are different things that you now require to address your different needs and desires.
For example, let's talk Christianity because I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
A pastor will take the same Bible, Proverbs, read Proverbs, and tell you need to be poor to go to heaven.
Right.
Another pastor will read the same Proverbs and tell you need to impact, make more money, create jobs, revitalize your society, and that's how you go to heaven. Same Bible. Somebody will say Jesus was poor. The other person will say Jesus was damn rich.
Yeah.
How do you sell a poor person's garment? Jesus' garment was auctioned. Think about it. Was that guy poor? Never.
I mean, if you can.
Do you auction cheap stuff?
No.
Have you ever seen any auction that's done on a cheap stuff?
No, and if it is, it's quick. It doesn't.
There's no cheap auction because the sheriff himself needs to be paid to come and sell that spoon. So if the spoon doesn't worth his time, do you think he's going to come and sell?
No.
So the guy that you are believing that one pastor is telling you need to be poor to go to heaven, but that guy died and his garment was auctioned. Was he poor? A poor person can feed 12 people, can tell 12 people to quit their job and come follow him. How was he feeding them? A poor person can turn bread into thousands and fish into thousands to feed people. A poor person can convert water into wine. No, there's no poor mindset that can do that.
True. To the point where Judas was stealing from him and yet he still survived. Like
you can be broke because broke is temporary. But if you are poor, it's a mindset. You can never be poor. Poor is mindset.
So let's dive into that. So what do you say to the guy who grows up in a rural village? His parents couldn't send him to school.
Yeah.
Couldn't access it.
Yeah.
Doesn't have access to YouTube because cost of data. He's structurally excluded.
Yes.
From participating in an economy.
Yes.
Right? How does his mindset or access to different thinking move him from that condition where he's in social grants, he's struggling, and I worked for the Development Bank of South Africa, right? And we traveled a lot to very, very difficult parts of the country to establish infrastructure.
Yeah.
And there are people who are, in my mind, at least the way I see it, were structurally excluded.
Yeah.
There's no matter how much effort they exert,
Yes.
it's very hard for them to exit that environment.
Yes.
And they need an intervention.
Yes.
My view is that intervention is the gospel.
Yes. Yes.
Other people have other views, the government, whoever. But I find that there are people out there who actually don't have the ability to extract themselves out, even with the thinking, right? So in that scenario, how would you speak to someone who has that sort of background and environment?
Okay, so that's why you and I are here. And that's, of course, you've mentioned podcasts not reaching to those people, right? Now, let's talk about legacies, right? Because now it's beyond you. And now you have the information, you have the relationship, you've got the grace. God has blessed you. What do you do with the abundance that comes in? And that is now on us to take that extra, to go look for people like that and bring them to light. And they can now become somebody and go back in there. That's all, one step at a time.
I hear you. I typically think that's the role of the state, not just us, but I think your point is valid. There's a role we need to play.
I tend to agree and disagree. Everybody says government. Who is government? Government is people. Who is government? Who is the state? The state is us. Who makes, yes, there's a leader because somebody needs to
elect someone to make decisions.
Otherwise, the world will be chaotic.
And to collect money from us.
Right? But if you leave everything to the government, to the state, maybe nothing good will be done.
Because there's no guarantee that a government can be efficient.
Right.
In fact,
so for example, let's say God blesses you. Your kids get scholarship. The best athletes. I'm just using examples, arbitrary, right? Best athletes. You are paying school fees. Now that school fees gap, what are you doing? I'm not saying take that 100% and go give it, but can you sacrifice 50%?
I hear you.
Because God is blessing you, or whatever you believe in is blessing you, right? So you push and you bring in, and then you push and you bring in, and then when you look back, people will say, "Why do you need all these billions?" Somebody will say that, but that billion is got 500,000 people. Jobs that been created, and that 500,000 people times that by 10
who support other family, so we need a form of call it conscious capitalism.
That's the thing, right? Because it's like, if it has to be, we don't need to do YouTube, we don't need to buy more houses, we don't need to do all of this if it's just you and your family. But then what good have you done? What's the purpose that you've come and served in this world? That's the question I ask myself all the time.
Yeah, I do ask myself that as well, that it can't come down to dollars and cents. Because stuff like that, it doesn't, I don't carry it with me when I go 6 feet under. I think what I carry is my soul and what I did with my life when I was...
That's the thing.
And it's an interesting, and I debate this a lot even with myself, to say, when we enter transactions, we recently did a deal, and there's a book I read called Business by the Book.
Yeah.
And there's a chapter there where it speaks about an engineering business, and the guy had a partner, and that partner left and started the exact same engineering business, but his products weren't great. So this gentleman then bought his product, worked on it for a year to improve it, and called him in and said, "I know you weren't happy with me, but here's your product. It's competing with mine, but here are its flaws, and look at it." Because he felt that God was calling him to do that. Right? And we had a situation like that where we were trying to do a healthcare deal, and we didn't necessarily agree with the promoter on the other side, and we had to walk away from it. And I also had that conviction. I was like, okay, even though we're not working together, here are the context of the investors who might be interested in what you're doing. Because in my mind, I thought, fine, I've walked away from the deal, but what will the hospital do for that community?
Yes.
Even though I'm not the deal maker now.
Yes.
Right. And I think, and not to say I'm a perfect human being, right? I'm just saying the thought around being more conscious about how we build our capital, I think, needs to be more established.
Yes.
But yeah, that's we veered from
Yeah, what you were talking, yes.
But I think it was an important conversation to have. I think maybe to land the plane, where do you see Property Ask Ekow going? Where do you see the real estate that we are involved in, especially in Johannesburg? And I often say, like, Johannesburg is a unique place. It's the largest man-made forest, but it's one of the world's major cities that's not near a water body.
Yes.
So most of the world's major cities are near some water body. So we've got unique things that we do. We can't compete, for example, with coastal cities. We don't have a mountain. We don't have warm beach. So there is I think there's a view of places like Johannesburg that we can have. What do you see going forward in our city? And where do you see Property Ask Ekow growing? And what are your long-term ambitions?
Okay, so let's tackle Johannesburg and inner city and the trend or the future aspiration of the city. I think that, or from my own observation, I see that there's a lot of potential coming in into the city, in sense that there's a lot of people now that moving into cities, into the inner city, young professionals. So there's, in terms of the real rental yield, there's a high potential in terms of that market growing. And also you must realize that these young professionals are also outpriced from the formal market. So they want to move closer, and their affordability is lying between your 2,500 and 4,500,
which is new town.
So now this brings an opportunity to revive the broken spaces, right? So with that, in terms of the personal side, where I see myself maybe in the next 5 to 10 years, is to have a well-diversified, multi-residential or multi-let residential buildings across at least 3 provinces, backed by a strong team and systems. So that's, and then obviously it's to teach, which is why we launching our property startup blueprint, with the aim to impact on society. It's more to me on economic revival, more so than the profit, right? So it's economic revival, helping people to know more so they can also make more money and obviously do better than Ekow. So that's my next phase of life in the next 5 to 10 years. If I could be able to achieve that and add more impact to society, then I've achieved my purpose, so that's it.
Yeah, thank you again for your time. Thank you for coming through. Hope you've learned a lot. The viewers have learned a lot about inner city real estate and the business behind that, and a little bit about success and motivation there at the end.
Yes.
And we hope, when we pray, that you actually achieve your goals and dreams. I think they are noble, and they provide a core service to humanity. So thank you again. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time on Don't Chew With Your Mouth Open. Cheers.